Mob Talk is going old school tonight with a look at some old-time gangsters getting out of prison after more than 2 decades behind bars. Here's Fox 29's Dave Stratweiser and the Inquirer's George Anastasia.
Welcome to this week's edition of Mob Talk. I'm Dave Stratweiser.
And I'm George Anastasia with the Philadelphia Inquirer.
George, this week we're going to go old school, back to the Nicky Scarfo days. Some of his capos and soldiers have done 20 some odd years in jail. They're about to get out and about to make some noise.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. That big racketeering trial was 1987, so these guys have done over 20 years. They're in their 50s now, and the question is, when they come out, where do they fit in, who do they fit in with?
All right, George, I made you do a little homework this week.
Right.
Catch up on some old-time Scarfo guys. A couple of them are out. A few of them are about to get out. Give us a little laundry list of who's coming out.
Yeah, we're looking at, the next guy out is Joey Pungator, a really interesting guy, real good friend of Salvi Testis, and apparently, from the testimony we saw in that racketeering trial, Joey Punch was compelled by Nicky Scarfo to set Salvi Testa up. One of the more infamous hits in South Philadelphia history. Salvi gets lured to a candy store with Joey Punch, his best friend, allegedly to settle some kind of loan shark problem with Wayne Grandy, and Grandy pops Salvi in the candy store, and then his body gets dumped in Jersey. So Joey Punch is due to come out this year. Next year we're looking at Torrey Scafidi, the brother of Tommy Horsehead, and Charlie White Iannici, one of the old-time guys. So those are the next three that come out on the streets.
Now, these guys are in their 50s. Some of them are older, correct?
Charlie's,
They've been in jail 20-some
yeah,
years?
Charlie's 70. The other two guys, I think, are in their late 40s, early 50s. Yeah, most of them are in their 50s now.
All right. Now, they did their time. They've been stand-up guys. If they were to come out and want some kind of standing down here, I believe Joe Punch was a capo, was he not?
Yeah, I mean, I think these guys have automatic standing if they want it. The question is, one, do they want to come back into the life? The other question is, when they come out, who's going to be here to associate with? I mean, we keep hearing about a new racketeering indictment, so it may be very serendipitous that they come out at a time when there's lots of openings in the organization.
Well, let's talk about Joe Legambi. He's the current boss of the mob. He has a relationship. He was part of the Scarfo era back then. He's probably got at least some kind of better than hello goodbye relationship.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Legambi's one of the guys who's got a foot in both camps. Legambi was a Scarfo guy. Legambi was jailed for the Frankie Flowers hit that got overturned, but he was part of this group, the Scarfo group. The only reason Legambi got out back after the Flowers thing was overturned was Legambi had never been convicted in the racketeering case. So these guys had a racketeering conviction they still had to serve after the Alfonso murder got overturned. Legambi, on the other hand, came right home. But he's a part of that, so he goes back to that generation. He's, what, turning 70, so he's a contemporary of a lot of these guys. Yeah. And I don't think there'd be any problem with those guys coming out and being part of what he's running right now, if in fact that's the case when they come out.
All right, my sources are telling me that a lot of these guys, the Scarfo guys, made some pretty good connections in prison with the New York mob guys, the Gambinos, the Genovese family, the Bonanno family up in New York, so they have some pretty good connections as far as having some kind of juice or backing when they come out.
Yeah, I think that always happens. I mean, those guys kind of gravitate toward those guys that are in jail with them. And so you make those connections. And you got to remember, these guys have done 15, 20 years. If they've established relationships and they've been around these guys for a long time, those are solid friendships. Now they come out and they use those friendships and connections to solidify their position here and to have lines open to New York. So all of that enhances their status in the underworld if, in fact, they want to go back to that life.
Well, if Joe Legambi and his underlings get indicted and they get swept away, do these guys have the wherewithal to come out and restart this thing?
Yeah, I mean, such as it is. I mean, this thing today in 2010 is not what it was in 1980 or 1990. So sure, they could come back and put it back together, do what they got to do. I mean, Legambi is an example of that. Legambi came out at a time of a lot of turbulence, kind of slid into the #1 spot.
10-year reign, no noise, no headlines, made a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he surprised a lot of people. One, by the way he went about his business, and two, by the fact that he lasted this long. But, you know, we keep hearing that's going to end. And that creates, if that creates a vacuum, you've got guys now coming out who are veterans, and then they would fit right in.
So Legambi's living proof that you can do it.
Yeah, I mean, he had a second act. Now, the second act may be about to end, but he did have a second act, a successful second act.
You're predicting the curtains coming down? Is that what you're saying?
Well, how long have we been predicting that, Dave? I mean, but, you know, at a certain point, it's going to be true, yeah.
All right, George, we didn't talk about one guy who's not getting out anytime soon, and that's Nicky Scarfo Sr.
Yeah, he turns 80 this year, and his release date is 2033. Which is 23 years, which would mean he would be 103 before he gets out. I don't think we're seeing Nicky Scarfo anytime.
Yeah, that's interesting because that would be some real problems.
Yeah, and I don't think it's happening. So I think you know, he's in essence doing a life sentence. The other guys that are in for a significant time, Fafi Iannarella, I think doesn't come out for 20 years, and Chucky Merlino's got at least 5 more years to do.
That's Joey's dad.
Joey's dad, right.
Yeah. From old school to new school. Bent finger Lou Monticello went away to jail January 5th. Surprisingly enough, a week later, he's already out on work release.
Yeah, the saga continues. I mean, he's moving around South Philadelphia, and the only difference is I think every night he's got to go back and report into jail to spend the night. But he comes back out, does his construction business, and I think you've spotted him around town.
Yeah, and he's out on the weekends. I'm assuming he spends behind bars.
Yeah,
as well.
he's got to be behind bars on weekends. He's got work release so he can come out during the day, during the week. And that's 11 and a half months is probably what he's going to serve, the low end of his sentence. Probably a little bit less than that when you count for good time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Bent finger Lou, the saga continues. He's still out and about doing what it is that he does.
Finally, it's no secret that Lou Monticello is not happy with you about your stories, and he's not happy with me about Mob Talk and all the talk we have about him. So here's an open invitation, Lou. We'd love to hear your side.